Jason, you guys hung in there against the Super Bowl champs. How strange was it for you, and how much of a factor was it flying out? I know there's a lot of things you can't control. They're out of our control. Flying out on the day of a game, that had to be, nobody wants to make excuses, but that had to be somewhat of an impact.
Yeah, it was different. It was the first time. It was my 12th year in the league. It was the first time I traveled on the day of the game. I don't think I've traveled on a day of a game like a trip that was extensive, probably since I was playing Pop Warner football. So at 33, it's a lot different traveling and going to play. But I think it didn't have an impact on the game. I think we showed up. We were ready to play. We were ready to go. Impressive, I think, for us as a team with everything going on, not only traveling the day of the game, but when you're missing a player, and not the impact it has on the game, but when you're missing a player due to health reasons, that's tough in itself. You know what I mean? Finding out Saturday that Cam got COVID, trying to deal with that, figure that out. Then now the next thing you know, you worry about your guy. Then now you're worried about yourself and your family. So it was just a whirlwind the last few days of figuring it all out, and then jumping on the plane in the middle of all of it during the incubation period and all of that type stuff. It was just a lot of question marks, but I was proud of the way we fought. Obviously, it didn't go our way, which was disappointing. We didn't make enough plays. I know for us as a defense, we were disappointed. We left a few plays out there on the field, and in the NFL, there are no moral victories. You don't walk away and say, hey, well, we traveled the day of the game. We had this going on. Hey, but we played hard. It was a disappointment because we didn't do enough to win that game.
You guys are now 2-2. You beat Miami. You beat the Raiders. Those two losses, Jason, are nothing to be ashamed of against the Seahawks. That came down to the final play of a game. And, of course, against the Chiefs. As good as we on the outside think of Russell Wilson and Patrick Mahomes and how great they are, you have that perspective of being on the field as a cornerback, and you played against both in a span of a few weeks. Just how difficult is it to face both of those guys?
Man, it's tough. I mean, the elites in our league at that quarterback position. I mean, I didn't get to see much of the game, but I just saw some of Aaron Rodgers' numbers from last night. When you talk about quarterbacks of that caliber, it's just playing and play out. You have to be so good. And even when you go out there and you have a great first half and you feel like, all right, we held them to 2 field goals, or we're getting off the field on third down at any moment. Mahomes can scramble for 19 yards on a key third down, or thread the needle on an over route on a key play in the game. I mean, and we saw Russ. I mean, he's just torn up the league this season and has done so for so many. So those guys are just so tough to prepare for. They can get outside the pocket and make plays happen. They throw the ball outside the pocket just as well as they do inside, and they're smart players. So I think when you have all of that with the weapons that they have surrounding them, that's why they're so tough, and that's why they're both at the top of the league when it comes to quarterback play.
You talk about elite quarterbacks. Obviously, New England had one for 20 years in Tom, and he moves on. And from the outside view is, well, the Patriots are going to take a step back. Then you bring in Cam Newton, and you pick up, right, the standard there is to win. The standard is excellence in championships. Have you noticed a shift at all, or is it still as strong?
Oh yeah, we're going out there to play, and we're going out there to win. I think that's always the mindset, and I think that's been since I've been here. It doesn't matter who's out there. If somebody's hurt, we're missing a guy, it's the next man up, and we're going out there, and the expectation is still the same. And I think obviously, like you started with Tom over the past 20 years, just how well he's played. But I know for me, being in the locker room with him, his preparation, how hard he worked. The time he spent in the building to not only work on his body, but mentally watching film, helping guys along the way. It was easy to see right off the bat why he was able to perform the way he does each and every Sunday, as he continues to do this season in Tampa Bay. And then when we brought in a guy like Cam, it was some of the same. A guy coming in early, motivating the guys around him, putting in the work. And I think when you speak of guys like that, Tom is whatever accolade you want to bring up. He has it. Cam is a guy who's been the MVP in this league and has been a standard of excellent throughout his entire career. So those guys have a certain makeup that when they're on the team, they automatically raise the level of the position that they're playing at and of the people that surround them.
Most people, Jason, know Bill Belichick from what they see on TV and in post-game news conferences and interviews as he comes across as a grumpy guy. From a player to coach view, though, what's the personal side, that relationship like? What kind of guy is he?
I think he's just a guy who's coaching football and he wants to win. And I think when we walk in the building, that's the common goal for everybody there. I think when it comes to that game planning, the fundamentals, whatever you want to say, when we walk in that building, it's about business and we're there to work. When we're in the locker room, that's time to be with your guys, laugh and joke and all of that. And I think that's who Bill is. He's a great football coach, and he's a guy that knows how to motivate his team, knows how to get us going, and that's what he's continuing to do throughout his entire career. I think who we see him as, we're laughing in meetings with him at times. He's a human being, and he has all the same emotions we all do. And I think for us, we just enjoy playing for him, and we enjoy going out there chasing excellence.
Jason, you're involved in many projects along with your twin brother and teammate, Devin. The latest, you guys are investors now in Malcolm Jenkins's Broad Street Ventures. What got you interested in a venture capital fund?
Well, first and foremost, I think Malcolm is a guy that I remember meeting Malcolm and knowing who he was coming out of high school. All of us were Jersey guys playing in the kind of Jersey versus New York game and continue to follow his notoriety. Went to Ohio State, to the Saints, to the Eagles, now back to the Saints. But Malcolm is a guy off the field that has just done a ton for a ton of people, whether it was social justice work, whether it was business stuff, whether he's posting his suits and everything. He's always has his hand in something. So I think when he came to Devin and myself with the opportunity, it's something that you don't take lightly, because, you know, if he's in it, it's something that's probably bound to succeed. So I think that's what first sparked my interest when Dev came to me and kind of sent me the info and just started to look into it a little bit more. And I think one of the key things is, I think for us as athletes, especially in today's world, the more we can broaden our horizons and step outside the box and create different avenues, or just follow through in avenues that have already been created, like something in venture capitalists as Black and brown athletes. I feel like we can do so much. And I think there's so many things that whether we don't know they exist or we don't think we can be a part of them, sometimes they hold us back. So I think this opportunity that Malcolm brought forward for myself and a few other guys to get involved with was just a no-brainer to try to see how much we can grow and see how much we can do off the field.
Malcolm mentioned this stat that less than 1% of American venture capital backed founders are Black, and even less Black people are involved in those decision-making roles in the venture capital industry. So how important is it for players like yourself, Rodney McLeod, J-Matt, Jordan Matthews, to team up and do this, to show maybe young people that there's different avenues, different opportunities for you out there? You may not have the talent and the skill level to be a professional athlete, but you can be an agent. You can be in the business world. You can be a lawyer. There's so many different avenues for you.
Yeah, it's huge. And I think when you can look at somebody that looks like you, or you can go read their bio and see that, hey, they're from a town like mine, or they grew up in a similar situation as me, and then you can see the things that they've done, sometimes it just allows you to believe that your dream is possible. I know for myself growing up, Keith Bullock was from the same county as Devin and myself, and he was a guy who had been playing in the NFL for a while, and me seeing him and being able to play with him on a video game, it kind of let me know that it was possible. He was from the same exact area. He went to Syracuse. He made it to the NFL, and I remember my rookie year being on the same team as him. He was in his, I think, 10th year at the time, and thinking about how cool that was. And I think we have an opportunity. Obviously, what we do on the football field creates inspiration in itself, but I think what we do off the field has been huge. You know, whether it's the social justice work that you see sometimes now, high school kids speaking out for things that are going on in their community, whether it's now venture capitalists, whatever those avenues are, we have an opportunity to incite young individuals that may think that, hey, if I'm not a football player or I'm not a basketball player, I can't get out of the situation I'm in, or I can't be who I want to be. And I think the more that we can do and the more we can get out and show people that, hey, we're more than just athletes, and we're using this as an avenue and a vehicle to get into all type of different ventures to explore what we're interested in outside of football. I think it's huge for our youth.
You're out, you mentioned social justice. You're out there on the forefront fighting for racial equality and social justice. What are your thoughts, Jason, on what the NFL has been doing? Because they've changed a lot. They've come a long way since 4 years ago when Cap started the movement.
Yeah, it's kind of become popular now, to be a part of it. When George Floyd, when his murder went down, every business you saw was posting something on social media. Everybody started to say, oh, it's okay to say Black Lives Matter. The entire NBA took a knee. There was just so many things that were frowned upon. When Cap took a knee in 2016, eventually he hasn't played a down of football in however many years it now is. And now the same things that he was preaching and the same things that he was doing are now being celebrated. I remember in 2016, I remember Malcolm was holding his fist up. I did it. Deb did it. There were a lot of guys that were doing silent protests during the anthem. And to go back and read the social media comments and the things that took place at that time were incredible. To see some of the things people would say to you and how mad and how angry a simple fist in the air, whatever the gesture might be, made people, to now you fast forward to 2020 and everybody's doing something. And if you're not, you feel awkward that you're not doing something. So on one end, it's just like, why'd it take so long? But on the other end, you appreciate the fact that it's actually happening. And that's one thing I truly believe in. Everybody's journey is different to get to wherever God sees fit that they need to be. And maybe I realized it earlier than somebody else. Maybe Cap realized it earlier than other people. But I think the fact that if you're able to change somebody's mind and more importantly, change somebody's heart, I think it goes a long way. Whether it took them 3 years, it took them a month, or the first time they heard the truth, they were able to change. But I think eventually if you can get the mind to change and the heart to change, I think those are going to be the key things when we talk about social justice to try to bring equality to our country.
What more needs to be done, Jason? Because you mentioned some of those comments that you would read 4 years ago, and maybe they're fewer, but they're still out there now. So what more needs to be done?
I think the obvious things are when you talk about our system, there's so many things that need to change within that. But I truly believe it's going to be the system, but in order for that to happen, it has to happen at a heart level. And me and some of my teammates, we talk about it all the time. This system has been in place for so many years. And that just means that from generation to generation, the system continues to be the same because the people change, but the mindset and the heart doesn't change. And I think when we can change that, when I can go home and teach my kids about equality and show them that, hey, people are going to be different than you. They're going to look different than you. They're going to act different than you, but you still have to love them and appreciate them and get to know who they are. When I can go home and teach my kids that, and I'll take our locker room, for example, when you have 53 guys within a locker room who all look different, who all come from different backgrounds, are going home teaching their kids that same thing, I think that goes a long way. And the one thing I feel like it could be more promising is that we're now growing up in a generation where everybody is seeing more. There's so many camera phones, there's so many different things that go on that now there's video of it. And hopefully now people seeing it and not just hearing about it will get people to understand some of the issues that have been talked about for hundreds of years in our countries and start to realize that, hey, things need to change. And you don't have to look further than yourself. Like, you can be someone that can change the things that you see wrong in our country.
Man, that's powerful. I saw you and Devin just donated $50,000 along with the Players Coalition to a high school in Boston to help provide computers and programming. And, we take internet access for granted. You got to see me in the house if I don't have internet and it's down or whatever, and I'm freaking out. My wife's like, calm down, whatever. But we take that for granted. What do you say to students who simply, they don't have the same advantages as others? How do you encourage them?
Man, control what you can control. And I know that's one of those sayings that are so much easier said than done. And I think part of that is the people who have the resources is trying to help. I know here in New England, The Crafts have donated a ton of money to trying to help technology in this area. Devin, myself, back home in the 2 different school districts we kind of grew up in, tried to give money to be able to have Wi-Fi, Chromebooks, and all of those things. Because it's tough. You know, when you talk about, hey, we're only going to school 2 days and the other 2 days we're going to meet virtually. Well, if you don't have any way to meet virtually, you're now missing out on 2 days, what is supposed to be 5 days. So now you're essentially going to school 2 days a week. And it's hard enough to learn as it is with everything that goes on. And I think beyond that, in the households where you may not have anything virtually to be able to get on, the question is too, what else is going on? You know, are there other things within the household that could be holding the kid back? And, you know, are they going through financial problems? Is there trauma in that household? All of these things come into place. And I think with everything that's happened with COVID, it's just exposed a lot of the issues that were already going on. So my advice to kids would be to control what you can control. You know, if you can maybe borrow somebody's, if you can tag along, get a little bit of extra work, maybe when you are in school to make up for the days that you're going to miss, maybe virtually, but continue to put your best foot forward. It's tough times right now for everyone, but just continue to work your butt off and try to come out on the other end of this.
It's great advice, man. I know on October 26th, you and Devin, you're hosting a special live edition of your show. You guys do a show together called Double Coverage, and it's a fundraiser for Tackle Sickle Cell. And the event is going to benefit the Boston Medical Center and Next Step Fund. I would assume if people go to McCourtyTwins.com, they can get more information. But what is it that you're going to be doing that day, and how did you get involved?
Yeah, our Tackle Sickle Cell campaign is something we started about 8 years ago now. And each year we've been doing a casino night, and sucks obviously this year we're not going to be able to have that event in Boston that we've been able to have the last few years. So we're going to kind of do our podcast. We're going to just do a special edition of it where we're going to kind of do it to celebrate and talk about sickle cell disease. And we're going to have some teammates on. We're going to try to find things just to have an interesting and a fun time for probably about an hour, and just try to raise money. You know, Boston Medical Center is somebody we've partnered with in the area who takes care of a lot of sickle cell patients. Next Step Fund is another group of people who do a terrific job of just trying to support and be there, raise awareness, raising funds to be able to help those patients with sickle cell. And me and Dev got involved. The sickle cell disease runs in our family. We have an aunt and an uncle who both had the disease. Our aunt passed away 2 years ago in January, and we were very close with her. And the one thing that all the work we do, just how proud it made her, was really cool for her. She wasn't able to attend a ton of the events. Her health just didn't allow her to. She resided in Orlando, but she's been an inspiration, and we always tell her story because a lot of kids with sickle cell, you kind of grow up with an expiration date. And I remember talking to my aunt when she was about 10 or 11 years old. A doctor told her she wouldn't live to see 35. She was 69 when she passed away. And over the years, me and Dev have talked to parents that worry so much about their kids because they're in fast forward. Kids get to that young adult age of 19, 20, 21, and they've been told their entire lives that they're not going to live long, and you're just trying to fast forward and get as many experiences done as possible. So my aunt's story is one we try to share all the time because she was able, when she was younger, she was able to travel the world and see different countries and do some terrific things. And her health started to go as she got older, but she was just such a fighter. She was such a tough person, and so faithful. And it's motivated and inspired us to try to do as much as we possibly can to give back to that community and help those in need.
Well, you guys do so many different things. You give back as much as you do. I know as a brother in Christ, I mean, that's probably got to inspire you somewhat, your faith, doesn't it? I was just teaching I told you about my twin girls. I was just talking to them about Matthew 25:40, whatever you do for my brothers and sisters, you do for me. How much does your faith inspire you in all of this stuff that you're doing?
It's huge. I would say, and kind of the season that I'm in, and I know a lot of the other guys are in, is very renewing. I think right now there's just so much uncertainty. You know, we're trying to play a game during a pandemic where we have to have close contact. And I think my faith is kind of what continues to kind of pull me through. Days can be exhausting, and you can open up and read a verse or read a passage and just feel better about the situation you're in. We do our chapels each and every week. And this year we decided to have a message as we're going through Proverbs, but also have somebody share their own testimony. And that's been extremely inspiring to hear guys that you share a locker room with and you share a common goal with every day as we chase as many victories as possible. But you don't always sit back and really learn about a guy and learn how he came to know Christ or learn about why his journey led him that way. And that's been awesome to just sit up there and hear guys talk about some of their heartache, some of their adverse situations, but how it's led them to success and how it's led them to peace of mind. And I think that's been awesome. And when you talk about faith, when you're able to have that type of fellowship with guys that you truly care about, that's what it's all about. You know, when 2 or 3 or more of us are gathered, he's present. And I think when we do that and we're able to take that and then take it into our communities and do things to help people, and when people can see him through us, sometimes it's not always the gift of gab and you don't have to always say something eloquently. Sometimes it's maybe just what you do or the smile on your face that somebody needed for that day.
Well, you talk about that, and I heard you once say that the year you spent in Cleveland, you kind of felt like you were doing life on your own. And sometimes I feel like as I'm so busy with so many different work projects, I'm going about life on my own, and thankful and grateful I have my wife to help me in that journey. But as men, how important is it to lean on teammates, to lean on accountability partners, to have guys you spend fellowship time with and not try and do life on your own?
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. And like you said, the year I was in Cleveland, obviously a lot of different things going on, struggling as a team, trying to figure that out, spent 8 years in Tennessee, kind of built my career there, get released there. You're dealing with doubt. Go to Cleveland, you're trying to transition to a new city. Our youngest, I have 3 kids. Our youngest was about 4 or 5 months. She was allergic to everything as a baby. So we're trying to figure that out. My wife is Puerto Rican. Storms had just hit Puerto Rico. So we had a ton going on. And looking back at that time, it was a very selfish time for me where I was so focused on everything I was doing, trying to figure it out on my own, while my wife's there trying to deal with 3 kids, a newbornish kid who's dealing with allergies. Her family's going through things back in Puerto Rico. And that was the realization for me of just like, you're not doing good. You're not doing a good job. You know, there's things more important in football. There's things more important than yourself. And I think at that time, having my brother Dev and having different teammates, especially in that off season, I went to PAO that off season for the first time, and having people being able to speak truth to you and tell you like, hey, what you're doing is not right. And that's the one thing I've appreciated. Obviously, so many teammates over the years, but being able to have a brother that you're so close to that's not afraid to tell you anything to your face has been huge. And similar to like what you said, my wife, she exposes anything. Sometimes if I think I'm too high or I'm too low, she's always there to kind of keep me even keel. And she has no problem at all telling me when I'm wrong or telling me when I need to step it up. So I honestly feel like throughout the 13 years that we've been knowing each other, God has used her as a vessel to talk to me in so many different ways and guide me in so many different ways. So it's definitely been a journey. I know it'll continue to be one. And it's just one heck of a ride when he's in your corner.
Well, Jason, man, I really appreciate this conversation, and I wish you a ton of blessings in your football career, everything you're doing in the outside world, and everything that you're doing, man. I applaud it. You're doing great work, so keep it up, brother.
I appreciate that. Thank you.